Okay, I think that we are live. Hey, Girl Scouts! It's Tori, and we are going to talk about victory gardens today. So, as people are starting to join, just go ahead and comment your name, where you're from, and what your favorite vegetable is, or what you hope to grow. So it looks like the only person needs to share all over the place. So we're going to give it a couple seconds as people start to join. Please let me know if you can hear me. You know, the comments take a little bit of time before they actually show up. Okay, so we've got a couple more people now. We've got Layla from Georgia, and her favorite thing is broccoli. Awesome! Hello, Georgia. How's the weather down there today? Okay. Ooh, Dandy likes tomatoes. Yeah, you do. If you need any starters, let me know, because I planted way too many. Caddy, a cadet in Mississippi. Awesome. Sarah, cauliflower. Kate from Watertown, sorry, not Watermelon. You want to grow green beans? Wendy and Yolana from San Antonio. Yeah, our birds are being a little crazy right now, so that's exciting. It's very hot, yes. Okay, so now that we've got some people, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Tori Hinojosa-Houck. I'm an outdoor program manager with Girl Scouts of Western Ohio, and sorry. My computer's being weird, so I do apologize if something starts going in and out. But we're going to talk about Girl Scout traditions, and today we're going to focus on the Victory Garden. So I already see that we've got lots of people from all over the place on here. So I'm going to start with the history of the Victory Garden, and then we'll kind of jump into how you can grow your very own stuff at home. You don't even have to have a lot of outdoor space or any outdoor space to do this. So if you remember from the instructions, make sure you have a little plastic baggie and a little paper towel and some sort of seed, like a dried bean, or if you have seeds, that's awesome, so that we can kind of make our own little sprouting bag. But we'll also talk about how to use a whole bunch of other different recycled items to make your own little garden. My cat is going crazy. I apologize if you hear her crying in the background. So to start off with the history, during World War I and II, victory gardens were planted all throughout the U.S. and Europe to help with food shortages. So a lot of the food was going to the soldiers in the war. So then a lot of people at home had to kind of start making their own gardens so that they had enough food to eat and to kind of help with that. So they grew vegetables, fruit, herbs, from their backyards to apartment building rooftops. In New York City, parks along the river became gardens, and so did part of San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. And there's also information about it in some of the older Girl Scout handbooks. So the 1947 Girl Scout handbook says, "A Girl Scout is ready to help out whatever she is needed. Willingness to serve is not enough. You must know how to do the job well, even in an emergency." So during World War II, Girl Scouts tended gardens. They called them victory gardens in World War II. During World War I, they were war gardens. And they were kind of to help boost morale and access to food, so that families and just everybody in the community could get healthy food. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimated that about 20 million victory gardens were planted in 1943. Girl Scouts sponsored about 15,000 of them, so that's super, super awesome. Our Girl Scout sisters created and tended gardens at home, at the homes of friends and neighbors, in public parks, and in hospital grounds. In addition, thousands of older Girl Scouts worked as farm aides, gathering eggs, feeding and watering animals, preserving food and picking crops. And some older Girl Scouts helped run ambulances and a lot of other stuff during World War II. So right now, victory gardens are actually making a resurgence as people are feeling a need to be a lot more self-sufficient and not rely on grocery stores for their food. I know I personally have been enjoying kind of starting my own seeds and stuff at home. I've found it to be really relaxing and kind of a great way to connect with nature and just kind of have fun with that. Okay, and just double check some comments before I head on to the next part. Watermelon, yes. Very cool. So it looks like you guys are all pretty experienced gardeners. That's really awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about just making your own garden. So you don't need a whole bunch of space, which is the really nice part about gardening, to grow some of your own food at home. You can grow stuff on your windowsill in containers off the porch and right outside your house. If you have the space, you can do a traditional garden, or if you have time and stuff, you can make a raised bed, which are really, really nice. There's lots of other ways to garden as well, but those are just a few. So when you guys are deciding to make a garden, there's a couple things to consider. And this is by no means an all-inclusive list. It's just some starter things to think about. And then you'll definitely have to take into consideration where you guys are located. Because my friends in Texas and stuff like that will be planning things a lot earlier than Ohio because it like froze 3 days ago. So your location, so where you live, and then also the location you're going to put your garden. If you're doing it in a windowsill or putting it off like your back porch, a nice south window or south porch is good because you'll get kind of the full sun all throughout the day. And then if you don't have a south window, you'll kind of have to maybe take it outside or do something like that. A north window is not really going to do a lot, but you could put it in a different window if you need to. You do not have to be outside right now. You can be if you want to. And then kind of take in consideration what your foliage is going to look like once it's actually summer. So right now we've got lots of sun back here, but once all the leaves come back into the trees, it's going to be a little bit more shady. So you need to kind of consider that into consideration. You need to kind of think about your soil. So depending on what kind of garden you're going to plant, you might just go outside and dig up the earth and add just a little matter or add some compost into it. But if you're container gardening, you're going to have to go out and buy some soil. So you can get, potting soil from the store, or you can look at a little bit more specialized stuff or go to a garden center and they might be able to help you out. And then you need to decide what you're going to grow. So I think this is one of the most important things. You see all the seeds at the store and you get really excited and you just start buying all of them. Make sure to make a list of what you actually want to grow and what you'll actually eat. So you don't get like so excited and buy so many things and then you have nothing that you actually know how to cook or have plans of eating. So kind of start off on the small side and then you can grow a little bit bigger as you go into it. You also don't have to plant all the seeds in your packet. Some of the packets come with like 200 seeds or so. You don't have to do that. There's a lot of resources online that help you figure out how many plants you should plant for the number of people in your family. So I know I checked out the Old Farmer's Almanac. It was a really, really good resource because it kind of laid out all of the plants that I want to plant. And then I typed in my zip code and it told me kind of the date windows when I should plant. So when I should start some seeds inside, when I could go buy some starters from the garden center, and then if I wanted to plant them directly outside into the soil, when to do that. And it's based on the average last frost date in your area. So it's a really good starter point. I would recommend that. And then you need to decide if you're going to start your own seeds. It's cheaper, but it does take a little bit more time because you'll need to be planting your seeds kind of February-ish so that you're ready to go once your soil's good and warm. Or you're going to purchase transplants. So you're going to go to the garden center and buy a whole bunch of plants. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a little bit quicker and you don't have to put as much time at the beginning on the front end. So it's completely up to you. And then take into consideration the time of year and the weather. So like I mentioned, you have to kind of check out when your last average frost date is, and then kind of look at your weather in the next couple of weeks to make sure that's right, because it is an average, so it doesn't take into consideration what the actual one is, because those things are predicted a year in advance. So just make sure you're mindful of what's actually happening in your area. And then water access. So how are you going to water your stuff? Are you going to, do you have a hose? Are you just going to get, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Do you have a rain barrel that you can set up? Are you just going to do it the old-fashioned way and get your little water buckets and just water them that way? So those are just a couple things to take into consideration. There's definitely more depending on your area as well. So definitely if you're, in a specific area, double check that first. Okay. So I'm going to show you a lot of different ways that you can start your garden. So I just kind of ran around my house and grabbed things out of the recycling can and just out of anything that I thought that you guys might have on hand. So if you don't have one thing, you might have the other thing, but hopefully everybody has their little baggie and their paper towel. So let me just go grab my seeds really quick. Oh, here they are. Okay. So right here, I have a little jar. I started some sprouts the other day. And this is actually a really good first way to kind of start gardening. If you guys like alpha sprouts or any of those little sprouts that you can get at the store and they're on top of salads and stuff like this, you can do this super cheaply at home. So I just have like a little mason jar, a piece of cheesecloth right here, and just the ring for the mason jar. And all you do is you soak your seeds overnight, and then you rinse them out in the morning and dump out all the water, and in the evening every day. And so I just started these on Saturday, and I'm going to try to get nice and close so you guys can see it. I don't know if you can see them, but they are already starting to sprout. So these guys have only been in the jar for like 2 days, and they're already kind of sprouting, and you can see them coming out of the seed and the sprout coming out. Did you guys see that? I'm sorry. There you go. You can kind of see it. It's not the best. I also did the same thing with some lentils. These might be easier. Boop, 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 boop. Come here, little lentil. That I had at home. Ugh, I lost the one that was sprouting. But you can do the same thing kind of with lentils. Oh, here's one. And these are just like the dried seeds or beans and stuff like that you would buy at the store for food. So this guy's starting to sprout. He's coming out of his little seed shell. Let me do it. There we go. So he's going. And then I just have some regular kind of beans in here, but they're not quite ready. So all you need to do is, for our activity, is I just grabbed a little plastic bag from something I bought on Amazon because everything comes in plastic and I want to reuse this. So I've got my little baggie, and I also have, I'm outside so everything's going to blow away, my little paper towel. And all you need to do, let me see if I can move my computer around so you can see everything. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some water and just lightly wet down. Don't want to get too close to my computer. Our paper towel. I think you guys can see that. And then I'm just going to put some of my little beans. You don't have to have soak them. I just wanted to actually show you some that were alive. And so you could see what they would start looking like. And just put them in here. Wet it down. And you're just going to put it in your little plastic bag. And put it in a nice sunny window. And watch it over the next couple days. And it should start sprouting. Mine's a little dirty because I think I ordered some rocks. There you go. And so the reason why this works is because it's kind of creating its own tiny, tiny little greenhouse. So the water will kind of evaporate up, and then it will kind of come back down, and it will keep it nice and humid and moist like plants like. So if you don't have this stuff at home, or if you don't have soil, this is a good way to kind of get started. And after you get a couple sprouted, you can go ahead and transplant them into soil. But I also have a couple other ways that you can start your little garden. So I hold on to all of my little like strawberry containers, lettuce containers, and stuff like this. And I actually plant a lot of my seedlings or my seeds in these to start off. So right here, these have been growing for about a week. These are my watermelon starters. And I have the little pellets, but you don't have to buy these. You can just use just regular soil. And you just put the seed in there. I use a chopstick so I can get it far enough in. Drop the seed in there. Sometimes I mess up and I add a little bit too many seeds. And then I just close this up, add some water, and put it in a nice warm windowsill. And in a couple days, it'll start sprouting. So this is a super simple way to get some stuff started. And I like this because we're reusing things that we would usually either throw away or just recycle. So I have behind me, I'll show you, or in front of me, I'll show you, I have my little kind of starter greenhouse, and I have just a whole bunch of these little guys in there full of plants. Another thing you can do is you have like toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls that are left over. You can cut them. Boop, 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 boop. Cut it really quick. You can cut it and then give it 3 or 4 little cuts on the bottom, kind of equally spaced out. You just kind of fold it in at the bottom. If you're doing this one, just be careful because you might have like a little hole in the bottom, so don't put it directly on like your windowsill. If you have some little like containers like this that you don't use anymore, old like meat containers, deli cheese containers, you can put them in there just so the soil doesn't drip out and then the water doesn't go all over your windowsill. And then all you have to do with this guy, oops, I'm gonna move my computer again. You can see there. So all you're gonna do, I'm just gonna use my hands, put your soil in there. If you have soil, if you don't today, that's okay. I just thought of a whole bunch of different ways over the weekend of how you guys could plant stuff at home. And then, like I said, I like to use my little toothpick. So I just take the toothpick. You could use a pencil, use whatever you want. Plant it in there, make a hole. Since I already started sprouting these, I'll just put one of these in here. And I got my bean. I'm just gonna put it in there. I'm gonna cover it up. And then I'm just gonna water it a little bit. If you want this to go a little bit faster, if you have like saran wrap, you could close it with saran wrap so it creates its own tiny little greenhouse effect, also, well, greenhouse as well. Another thing you can make, if you have any like carton milk containers, you can cut a hole in it or a square in it, and then you can go ahead, poke some holes in it, and you'll have to double check. If you have a seed packet, it will tell you some spacing, so just keep that in mind. When you first plant, you could add a couple extras just to ensure that some things will grow, but then you'll have to thin them out, which I had to do with my tomatoes because I accidentally dumped like a whole seed packet into my tomatoes. And then you're just gonna kind of drop those guys in there and then put them in a nice windowsill. Again, you can go ahead and add some saran wrap over that. Boop, 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 boop. And then just cover them up. And water them. Oh, that's not my little sprinkler. And you don't have to go out and get a watering can either. So all I did with this, it's just a water bottle, and I took a little push pen and I just pushed a hole in it. So now I've got a little watering can that I can use. I also did the same thing with this milk container. So I just grabbed it out of the recycling, punched some holes in it like you can see, and now I have another extra watering can I can leave all around my house to plants. Oh, thank you, Sherry! I just went through my house and I'm using everything I can find. I feel very creative. So there's that. You guys probably all have cookie boxes all over the place. So if you have a cookie box, you can kind of do the same thing. All I did was kind of cut it like that. I don't know if you guys can see. Be careful with this if you're not good with scissors. And this is how I made that other one. Oops. So you have too many extra cookie box laying around. That's another way you can do it. So that's another way. Again, I told you I went through everything I could find in my recycling that I thought you guys might have. So you can do kind of the same thing with a little water bottle. He's a little squished because he's kind of old. That's the one I actually planted. So with your little water bottle, you can go ahead and put some dirt in it, plant your seed, and then you can take the top and kind of put it over here. It's not beautiful. But then this will kind of also do the little greenhouse thing, and you can put the cap on it. Just make sure if you're making like a tiny greenhouse, you're burping it every now and then, so you're kind of letting it open for a little bit so things don't start molding. This should be fine because I don't have the cap on it, and the strawberry container is good because it has like holes in it already, but the lettuce containers kind of get or can get a little too moist, which is a problem I found with using these little pellets, is because they come dehydrated. I think I have one around here. They come dehydrated like this, and then you add water to it so that it gets puffed up. So they have a little bit more water, so they just get moist a little too much, and then they can kind of mold. So just keep an eye on that. You can also do a similar thing to this with newspaper. I didn't have any newspaper on me, but that is another super simple thing you can do. And then I'm just going to take you in to the little greenhouse really quick. So right here on my back porch, I have a nice south porch and like windows, so I do a lot of my seeding stuff back here. So I've got some stuff that's been going for a couple weeks. So over here, I don't know if you can see. So I've already transplanted some of the stuff in here, but I have some of my pumpkins started, and these are only about a week or two old. So I've got some pumpkins, some yellow squash in here. This one I have cucumber. So again, I start them inside on my windowsill, just like this, and you can see how the water kind of evaporates in there, or does its own little water cycle in there. And then when I bring them out here, I open them up a little bit so they don't get super wet and start molding. But you can see this little guy right here. He's got a little root going. He's just starting to, I don't know if you can see it, pop out of there. So it's really cool to watch them grow. These are a little bit older right here. I've got some asparagus and way more tomatoes than I need ever. But I'll see if I can share them with people. And then down here, I have more tomatoes and some, what do I have? Some peppers, a plant that I forgot about, so I don't remember what that one is, and some cabbages. And I also hold on to all of my old like all the old pots from anything that I buy at the store, so I can repot things in there. So some of these are getting pretty big, and they're ready to be repotted, especially our friends right here. So all I did was I took one of my old pots and I added some soil to it, and I put a couple in here. So it looks like it'll start being nice outside, so that I can actually put stuff out in the garden. So I just transplanted them in here. So I've got butternut squash, and then I've got my sugar peas over here. And watching the peas grow was really fun because they have their little twirlies on it. I just thought they were cute. So I just transplanted them, and then when it's nice and warm, I'll take them outside to my actual garden and plant them there. And I had way more luck with anything that I covered with plastic, or did like a little greenhouse kind of thing within my house. Anything that I didn't do that with takes a lot longer to start. So I really do recommend that. So there's those guys. I was going to show you something else. Because I forgot to label something, I wanted to show you a couple ways you can make labels instead of going out and buying them. If you have like popsicle sticks, those are super, super easy to use, but I didn't have any popsicle sticks at home. I had like an old yogurt container, and so what I did is I cut it up into little strips, and now I can just take a Sharpie and label these. And so again, I'm just reusing stuff I found around my house so I can garden. So that was a super simple one. If you guys have egg cartons, that would make a really good seed starter. I didn't have any on me, but that would be a super easy way to plant some seeds and get them growing. So my actual garden, I don't know if you'll be able to see, is all the way out there by that field. So I can't get Wi-Fi out there, so I can't take my computer over there. But I have 2 raised beds, and then I have another just like regular garden plot. And so this week I'm going to get out there now that it's warm and start planting some of my starters so that we can start growing some stuff. With our raised bed, we did it kind of a little bit differently. I can't remember exactly how it's pronounced, but it's like Hugelkultur, I think. I believe it's German, but there's it's a way to build a garden, and you start off with a whole bunch of like rotting logs on the bottom, and then usually you would just put soil over it, but we just did that inside the raised bed. So as the logs are starting to decompose and stuff like that, it's creating some really awesome good soil. So we've got some rotting logs on the bottom, and then some soil, and my father-in-law, our neighbors, have cows. So after they have some composted cow manure that's been composting for about a year, we add that to our soil. I have a little compost bin going out in the woods, and so I take some of that. We have a lot of leaf mulch all over the place because our backyard is the woods. So I add that to the soil, and I just mix that all up so I have a really good soil for my plants. Okay, so that's about all I have for you guys. I think I showed you all of my weird little tricks and everything that I rescued from the recycling bin. But just know that you can use whatever you have on hand to make a garden. And if you are living in an apartment or don't have a lot of space, you can use a lot of other things to plant in as well. So a lot of plants do really well in containers. So you could even use like a little bucket like this to plant some stuff in. Let's try to walk around here. I don't know if I'll lose the Wi-Fi. If you have hanging plant baskets, I'll just take you up the stairs really quick. Mine have decorative plants in it, but you could put like vegetables and stuff like that in there. And some plants do really well just in a container at home. So I don't know if behind me you can see I have just my regular like house plants in there, but you can also put like vegetables and stuff in your windows and grow like lettuces and stuff like that. So does anybody have any questions? For a second. And I'll give it a couple. She's hiding. Any questions? Okay, so while questions are coming in, I'll go show you my chickens. They're living on my back porch right now. So my baby chickens. Oh, there they are. They're pretty cute. So it was really cold when we got them. So we actually started them in our bathtub in a tote so they wouldn't destroy anything. And now that they're a little older, we brought them out to the porch so they can kind of get used to the world. And then we have a nice chicken coop out there that we'll kind of move them to once they're a bit bigger. So I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like chickens a lot. They're really funny. They'll like follow you around kind of like dogs and be like, feed me, feed me. And they're actually really nice because they eat a lot of like insects and stuff like that. So we live kind of out in the woods, so we have a lot of insects, and the chickens really help with that. I think they eat ticks and stuff like that. One of them murdered a snake one time, so that was interesting. But they're really fun to have. We haven't had any in like 2 years probably. So this is our first new batch back. Do you have any tips for growing lettuce? So let me take you inside. So I just planted my lettuce like 2 days ago. So I don't really have a lot of great tips on it yet. But I started mine. Take you inside really fast. So here, just in the house really quick. This might be cool. So right over here is where I've got my plants hanging out in my south window. I won't be able to see there, so I'm just gonna move right here and go grab it really fast. Okay, so I have my lettuce started in my spring mix container. So I think I have like one lettuce starting. Got one just kind of starting. So all I did, oh, we've got a couple. So they're kind of starting. I just used these little pods. I haven't tried it using regular soil because I bought a whole bunch of them and was overly excited. But I find just putting things in one of these little like lettuce containers and putting them in a windowsill has honestly been the best way for me to start anything. I do have a little heating pad and a little light in the other room. I just don't have as good as results as just putting them in the windowsill. And you can also kind of stack them because they're all clear, which is really nice. So I'll let you know how this goes. They're only 3 days in, but I hope my lettuce works. Okay. So I'm just going through the question. I feel like I'm missing some of the questions, so 1 second. Any tips for growing broccoli? I have never grown broccoli before, so this is actually the first year I'm going to try it. So I'm not sure yet, but I'm very hopeful. Recommendations for soil, not potting soil if we try to do this remotely as a troop. If you are starting your seeds, you'll probably want starting soil because it has a little extra nutrients in it versus your regular garden topsoil. I'm not great at brands. I just have a whole bunch of bags of stuff in my garage that I just have been using. So I haven't actually had to go out and buy anything. I'm just rummaging around my house. And then I just grab some compost and stuff out of my backyard. We also have a mold problem, so I just grab the extra dirt out of the yard that I can't tap down. Sarah, what are some tips for keeping bugs out of your garden, but still having an organic, no pesticide garden? That's a really good question. I know there's definitely a lot of, I think you can spray, I think you mix like pepper flakes with some water and you can spray them on your plants. I would definitely encourage you to research that. I'm not 100% sure on that. I am also kind of, I enjoy gardening, but I'm not like a master gardener. So I would definitely look that up. But I think diatomaceous earth is something you can sprinkle around, and that usually keeps bugs out. But you'll definitely have to check on your plants a lot and be out there like just weeding and picking things out of your plants. How old are they? How old are Elka? I'm not sure what your question is in reference to. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Not seeing anything else. Thank you, Brooke. You know all the things. So Brooke is a really talented gardener. She has like 180 million plants in her house. So she said for indoor plants, she sprays with a diluted neem oil solution to keep pests away. So thank you, Brooke. Okay. So it doesn't look like we're getting any more questions. I'd love to see your guys's little gardens you start planting all over the place. So please post pictures in the comments for this so that we can all enjoy them and see. Yes, Heather. Good point. Sorry, I'm just interrupting my spiel. Oregon State University was offering a vegetable gardening masterclass online for free. I started watching part of it. It was very good. I think they're like one, depending on the area, they're like 1 or 2 zones away from our planning zone, but it was still really good information. So go check that out because that had a lot of really good tips. So thank you, Heather, for putting that out. But again, thank you for joining. Okay, got more questions. How do you know when to repot the seeds? So let me go back outside. So I usually give them like 2-3 weeks. It depends on the plant. But if they start just like not, you want to get to them before they start kind of falling over and not thriving very well, or before their roots start getting too pot bound. So a lot of these guys are probably they're ready to start getting transplanted. You can see like their roots are not good at using the camera, are starting to kind of go all over the place. If they were in, let's see, one of these actually have really teeny tiny. They're very, very small. So these guys are probably about ready to get, I'm going to move them into a bigger pot first and then let them grow a little bit before taking them outside. I don't know if that's, I'm just really attached to them now because they're my babies and I want them to do okay. But that is my plan. Amaret, Gabby says, thank you. And we are planting catnip. Oh, that's exciting. Do you have a cat then? I bet she'll enjoy it. If you are planting anything that is mint related, just be aware it's going to spread everywhere. So just kind of keep that in mind. So, okay. Now I think we have all our questions. Thank you again for joining me. I had a lot of fun showing you all the kind of little tips and tricks I have for my garden. And if you enjoyed this, please go ahead and post your pictures. I'd love to see what you guys came up with for your little gardens in your houses or outside or your windowsills. If you're not currently a Girl Scout, please go ahead and check out girlscouts.org/join to become a member. And join us again today at 2 p.m. I believe Vicki is doing knife safety or knives and hatchets, something sharp. So that'll be a lot of fun. And take care. Thanks.